Hey, welcome to Render Safe Training and Consulting Workplace Violence Prevention Program Module 1. This is a 5-part module series. This will fulfill SB 553. This is why the program was designed and originally designed as a rollout for in-person training presentation style, but decided recently to break this into 5 modes or 5 modules so that employers and employees can have the flexibility while still obtaining some of the information, the key information from the training without live in-person question and answer, unfortunately. But I try to answer the questions as I can through the presentation itself based on prior presentations. So my name is John Reynolds. I'm a 32-year veteran of law enforcement, 28 with the Sheriff's Office here in Fresno County, and currently oversee our Targeted Violence Prevention Task Force, which is a multidisciplinary threat assessment task force, educates employees, educates workplace, businesses, schools. We have a anonymous tip line with a QR code, a triage unit, an investigative unit, and a multidisciplinary threat assessment team, which consists of behavioral health personnel, school psychologists, emergency service personnel, private sector, HR personnel, all with threat assessment training. And that's a goal of ours to actually reduce community, workplace, and school violence. I oversee our detective bureau currently, and that includes our homicide units, our narcotics unit, gang task force, that type of thing. And with that, I've had a lot of opportunity at the Sheriff's Office to be a part of investigative teams, the bomb squad for the last 23 or so years. And aside from this, I teach forensic science and forensic courses for explosives and bomb squads and stuff like that. But we'll jump into this particular training and why we're here in Module 1. And a little disclaimer here that the content presented in this training class does not represent the opinions necessarily of the Fresno County Sheriff's Office. This is my opinion with Render Safe Training Consulting. This is my business. I will tell you that I teach the same topics and have the same conversations with those that I teach on behalf of the Sheriff's Office, but for all intents and purposes, this is my opinion here. Also, some of the content might be disturbing. So if you've been involved in incidents involving firearms, gunshots, robberies, that type of thing, you might need to take a step away or minimize your screen or something because the information might be a little sensitive to your viewing. So why are we here? Well, first of all, back in 2023, September 30th, Governor Gavin Newsom signed a law into effect, which is called SB 553, which focuses on workplace violence prevention. And it requires all employers and employees, all employers to provide their employees training in workplace violence prevention. The catalyst to this was an incident involving the Valley Transit Authority, also known as the rail yard shooting in Santa Clara, California, back in May of 2021, May 26th. Samuel Cassidy was an employee of Santa Clara Valley Transit Authority. He was a disgruntled employee at that, 20-year veteran. He had some comments that he made to an ex-wife of his hatred and wanting to instill violence upon members of his company. He actually set his house on fire the morning of the incident, kind of created a diversion. Fire and law enforcement resources when it went towards his residence, while during a shift change at VTA, he opened fire on 8 different employees. And as law enforcement officers closed in on his position, he took his own life. He actually had 3 weapons in his possession. I think he had 12 total, or maybe 12 remaining at his residence. And so this was the catalyst for this becoming state law. It's been a push for a long time to have this training as a mandatory training. But looking at the incident itself, I'm thinking that this could have been prevented. And we have some history going back with Mr. Cassidy. he had actually threatened an employee at one point in time, and that employee actually a year and a half prior to this incident mentioned that this would, if anybody was capable of going postal, it was Samuel. He also had an incident occurred in 2016 in which he was stopped by customs returning on a trip from the Philippines, and during that time with customs and search of his belongings, they actually found a diary or a journal that had terrorist ideation in it, and some document, more of a manifesto of his hatred or expressing his hatred of VTA. And at that point in time, this is 2016, there's nothing indicating that information was ever shared with the Santa Clara Police Department or even VTA. So in addition to that, he had at least 4 disciplinary cases that were elevated to management level. So if you have an individual with incidents elevated to the management level, there's probably multiple incidents where he was just spoken to, or things may have been ignored at a lower level. So we really feel like this could have been prevented had information been shared. And this is a big reason why the task force in Fresno County exists, so that if there is an incident at a workplace in which there is some type of HR related issue, the business can contact law enforcement. Law enforcement will meet with their HR personnel and basically open up the computer to ensure that there's no decisions being made in a vacuum, so to speak. It's like no silos of information where we don't share with you, you don't share with us, but whether we can, we want to put ourselves in a position to look at a global picture to see, hey, is this a isolated incident or is there a community threat? Or if we're seeing something in the workplace, is there something going on in a personal life? Or if there's something in the personal life, is there something going on in the workplace? So we really want to break down those barriers of communication and share the information. So as we jump into this, here's our objectives. We're going to define workplace violence. We're going to educate employees on the 4 types of workplace violence, discuss some mitigation strategies, and then train our employees on how to respond to workplace violence. So in this particular module 1, we're going to be looking at defining the workplace violence. We're going to educate the employees on the 4 types, and module 1 will end there. Module 2 will continue if you're a supervisor or manager. That's the mitigation strategies. And then everybody returns for the how to respond to an imminent and non-imminent situations, and then a final wrap up. Workplace violence, the OSHA definition, this is California Health and Safety Code 1250, the threat or use of physical force against an employee that results in or has a high likelihood of resulting in injury, psychological trauma, or stress. So looking at the worst case scenario, something that has a likely to result in injury, the worst case might be the active shooter situation, just as we described with Samuel Cassidy and VTA shooting. So that could be the worst case. What about the lightest level case, the easiest case, the simplest case, one we often overlook? Maybe that's a threatening phone call coming into your business. Maybe that is a homeless person that is sleeping at the entryway to your business, and your employee feels somewhat psychologically stressed by having to pass by or open a door around this individual in a normal setting and asked to go around to an alternate entry point. That would be considered a workplace violence as well. And then, of course, the kind of the outlier on this is a dog bite. Dog bites by OSHA standard are considered workplace violence, and they have to be documented as well. But we have the gamut, a light end, and then a heavy end for the extremes on this. 4 types that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about type 1, which is criminal intent. Type 2, which is the employee and customer, or employee and a client. Type 3, which would be your employee and employee, or employee versus former employee. And then type 4 are personal relationship, also known as intimate partner violence. What is type 1? Violent acts by criminals who have no connection to the actual workplace at all. Maybe they enter to commit a robbery or another crime, but there's no legitimate purpose for that assailant to be at the business. Could be disruptive behavior. Could be somebody coming into the front office of a business just for no other reason, just to cause a disturbance, not related to there being a client, clearly. Could be robbery, could be targeted violence. This could be something where the individual's been focusing on your business for some period of time, and you're their choice for executing mass casualty violence. We mentioned this, it could be a threatening phone call, could be a bomb threat, that type of thing. And interesting fact is that the type 1s make up about 80% of all workplace violence. And that's according to FBI stats. So a lot of times these are your cash handlers too, your delivery drivers, nighttime shift type industries as well. Those would be common for your type 1. Your type 2 violence is your employee and customer violence directed at employees by customers, clients, patients. This can be students as well, inmates, or other forms, others where medical services are provided. This might be mental health type situations where that's common. And like I mentioned, corrections, inmates versus correctional officers, that type of thing. We generally know our clients, but if you're in a fast food type industry, well, then your clients you don't know. You don't deal with them. You have your regulars, but you have people that come in that are travelers. You have no idea who's coming into your store at any given point in time. And so you don't know what that person's going through as well. So that individual might show up and have a disagreement over an order that's placed, the amount of change that they have. It might be a doctor's office setting where they're contesting some type of financial situation, a bill, that type of thing. That would be included as well. Type 3 workplace violence is violence against the employee by an employer or former employee. And this could be a coworker, a supervisor, this could be a manager as well that's involved. Interesting thing about this is that there's 3 factors where this type of violence is prominent. And these would include termination or a negative job review. And that's a common. You should always have it probably 2 people if you're given a negative job review to somebody. Number one, it shouldn't be out of they should know it's coming already. They probably know their behavior is subpar, or their productivity is subpar. Performance is not all that what it should be. A second one would be interpersonal problems among coworkers, people that just don't get along, and where we come together to work in a common place. We come from all walks, religions, different lifestyles. Many different gang members might come together at a business to work. And then you got your ostracizing or your joking, harassing type behavior from coworkers. That is another reason for this as well. The interesting thing is, though, many times this is the type of violence that can be prevented, and that is because we know our baseline behavior for those that we work around. Just like we know our family members' baseline behavior and our close friends, our coworkers, we typically do as well. And when we have situations where there's stressors going on in people's lives, we have the ability, based on a change in that behavior, to notice it and take action. So we think that a lot of this can be prevented for the employee versus employer, former employee type 3 violence. Okay, we have personal relationship or type 4 violence. Personal relationship or intimate partner violence actually makes up for about 60% of mass casualty incidents, and 80% of these involve actually firearms as well. This could be your domestic violence situation where your estranged spouse or partner comes to your workplace to target you specifically. And this is a important reason why we should notify our HR or supervisors if we are having problems, if we have sought a restraining order, if we are having any type of problem where we believe our spouse, former spouse, significant other, an ex-girlfriend, ex-boyfriend may come to your work site. It's best for all your employees, and sometimes it means getting our personal business out there a little bit, but we don't want somebody to show up and somebody may address them and think that, hey, they were here a couple days ago bringing you lunch. Okay, now they're bringing you lunch again, no big deal. If you let, and then something violent happens, of course, if we let those important people, security, front office clerks, whatever, know that there's a problem, then we can prevent something from happening as well in this realm. So that's going to wrap up the 4 types of workplace violence. And remember, dog bites is in there as well. If you are just the employee, stick around. You're going to jump over to Module 3. If you're a manager or supervisor, I invite you into Module 2. And we'll see you on the next module.